Welcome to the weekly wrap-up video. This is Professor Reidinger Dotterman. We are coming back from break this weekend after having been on spring break for what seems like a very long time. Hopefully, within the last couple of hours, everybody has completed turning in peer reviews for the first draft of the research paper. And this week, what you are mostly working on is getting the research paper expanded, revised, and completed in anticipation of next week when we will have the final peer review opportunity for the research paper. So there are a few things I want to talk about with you this week. I overshot. Let me go back here. First of all, revisions for Essay 1 and 2. Revised versions of Essay 1 and Essay number 2 can be resubmitted once for consideration for a higher grade. What that means is if you turned in Essay 1 and Essay 2 and you were unhappy with either or both of those grades, you can revise those essays and resubmit them for consideration for a higher grade. The grade that you receive on the revised version of the essay will be the grade that is calculated into your final grade for the course. In other words, if you got a 72 on the first draft of essay number 1 and you revise it, you submit it, and you get an 85, it is the 85 that will be counted as 15% of your final grade when I calculate grades late next month. I always get this question, what if I turn in a revision and the grade is lower? And I have to tell you that in 15 years, that has never, ever happened. But there's a first time for everything. So what I will tell you is if you turn in something, a revision, and the grade is lower, I will let you keep the higher original grade. What does happen, not terribly uncommonly, is that people complete revisions and the grade itself doesn't go up. And there can be a variety of reasons why that happens. Either the revisions that are made are not substantial enough to address the problems that the paper has, or sometimes in revising the paper, the student will make something like the organization or the thesis more clear, but then there are new problems with the grammar or sentence structure, and so the grade kind of stays the same, even if there have been things done that have made the paper better. So sometimes a revision doesn't necessarily pan out in terms of a higher grade, but a lot of time it does. And I don't put a ceiling on my revisions. Some people will say, oh, you can revise it for as much as 1 grade higher. I don't do that. So if you turned in a paper and you got a D on the first time you had it graded, if you do really wonderful revisions, it's certainly possible that you would receive a B or maybe even an A on the revised paper. So it's definitely worth the investment, I think, in effort and time to prepare revisions of Essay 1 and Essay number 2 if you feel like you would like to improve your grade. Essays must be submitted, or may be submitted, I guess, anytime before 8 p.m. on Friday, May 16th. You have until the very end of the course to submit those revised essays. So don't feel as though it's something that has to be done immediately. If you are still trying to get through this research paper, I recommend definitely making the research paper the focus of your efforts. It is worth 40% of your grade, so it is the most important assignment and the most important grade for the course. But certainly after you feel good about the research paper, if you want to turn your attention to revising Essay 1 or Essay number 2, please feel free to do so. The assignments are available under the Writing Assignments tab on the course site. And here's how it's going to work. They are safe assignments, so they work just like any other safe assignment. The only thing is they are set for 0 points possible, and they are set in the gradebook as a draft, which means they don't calculate into the final grade at all. What will happen is when I go through and grade them, I will grade them and I will send you feedback through the grade book, just like I always do, for those columns, letting you know what you received on the revision. Then I will go back into your original grade for the essay, which is what is associated with the totals column, and I will manually override your original grade so that you have the corrected grade from the revision calculated into your final grade. So I wish there was a way that more seamlessly I could make the grade book just pick up the revision, but since not everybody will do a revision, and since we have the issue of wanting to make sure we get the highest grade figured into the final grade, that is the way that it's going to have to be done. So if you have any questions about that, or if that's not clear, please let me know. Don't hesitate to ask. All right. The next thing that I want to talk about are citations. When I was grading, or not grading, but responding to the rough drafts of the research papers that I did receive, unfortunately, I didn't receive as many as I'd hoped, but I got about half, so that's okay. Um, I noticed that there weren't citations, or weren't enough citations, or weren't always citations where they needed to be in the drafts that I graded, and that maybe is a product of them being drafts, but I do want to make sure that you're really aware of the importance of citing in this class. In terms of the research paper, the way that Writing 303 works is the research paper is really the chance for you to demonstrate your mastery of the objectives of the course, which is research writing. So you are expected to be able to show that you know how to do that in the research paper. And to that end, in the research paper, if you fail to properly cite sources, it is considered plagiarism, and not the just you fail this column on the research, or on the scoring guide, or not just please redo this, but it really is a failing event in the course if you have not properly cited sources on your research paper. So if you're not properly citing sources, it is considered plagiarism, and that will be grounds for failing the course. So it is very important that you are diligent about citing sources on that research paper. Citations are needed, just to review, when you quote a source directly, that is, when you borrow the exact words, when you borrow a source's idea, or paraphrase or summarize a source, and when you include specific information that is not considered common knowledge. I want to say a couple of things about these items. The first thing that I want to make sure that you understand is that it is not okay to cut and paste from several different sources that you find online, or even several different print sources, and to kind of patch together a paper using somebody else's words. It is fine to use somebody else's words if you quote them, but you need to make sure that you are giving credit to them for their words. It is not okay to quote any length and not properly cited. So that is the first pitfall I want to make sure we're clear on. The second one is the standard of specific information, because I know that some of you have been studying the topics that you are writing about in some form for a long time. Like if you happen to be a psychology major, for example, and you're writing a paper where you happen to get into psychological theory, you probably feel like you have a handle on these theories and have known about them for a long time. So it doesn't seem to you like you're taking it from a text. Or um, I know a number of you are professionals in fields that are related to what you might be writing about, and you might just know stuff by virtue of having worked in the field for a long time, and you don't feel like you need to tie it to a source. This isn't exactly an issue of plagiarism per se in a research paper, although arguably it could become that. But it is a matter of needing to substantiate your sources. It is a matter of credibility. In a research paper, you have to be able to support specific information or specific claims with sources. So even if you feel like you know this stuff, or you don't feel like in writing the research paper you just took it from anywhere, that you just had it in your head, if it is specific information, you need to go find a source that substantiates and corroborates that information, and then you need to cite the source. When you quote directly, you must include quotation marks or block style format to indicate that you are borrowing someone else's words. Now, which do you use? Quotation marks are used to set off quotations of 40 words or less, and block style format is used to set off quotations of more than 40 words. If you do not use quotation marks or block style format, you are committing plagiarism even if you have a parenthetical citation. Because while you're telling me that the information came from a source, you are not telling me that you have borrowed the exact words. So always make sure if you're borrowing the exact words, put quotation marks around them. Citation includes both a parenthetical in-text citation next to the borrowed material, and I have an example here from what would be a paginated source, a dated paginated source written by a single author, specifically. So Smith, 2001 p period 35 tells me that it's in Smith on that who wrote it in 2001, or who published it in 2001 rather, and that it appeared on page 35 of that text. The complete publication information in APA format also needs to be on the references page, so they work hand in hand. In other words, if I have the parenthetical citation for Smith 2001 page 35, when I turn to the references page, I will find an entry for Smith that includes the complete citation information for that source in APA format. You should also remember that each kind of source has a different format for both parenthetical citations and the references page. And I know this seems really annoying, but there is a reason for it. It's because different kinds of sources are located differently and thus have different location information. In other words, you don't find a document that you download from a website in the same way that you find a book that you get off the shelf in the library. They are different kinds of sources, they're produced in different ways, and so they have different publication information, and what that means is they have different formats. And now, because of the availability of various digital texts and online texts, um, uh, we now have many more kinds of sources than we used to. If you were taking this class 20 years ago, it would have been a much easier thing to figure out how to cite everything. Now citation is increasingly difficult, so it is very important that you rely on a handbook and get comfortable using a handbook in order to cite all of the different kinds of sources. You can use the Bedford Handbook, which is the recommended text for this course, or if you did not buy the Bedford Handbook, remember under the Writing Resources tab on our course site, you will find a link to the Bedford Handbook online, and that is a really great resource. It has a wonderful menu that you can pull down, and it will show you how to format the different kinds of sources. Uh, Please get comfortable using it and make sure that you use it as you are finishing this research paper and getting it ready to turn in. If you can't figure out what kind of source you have or you're not sure which format to use, please ask me. It's very important that you get this right as you're getting this paper done and submitting it for grading. Finally, please keep working. I know that when you look at the module this week, you probably feel like you don't have that much to do, and that's really because I do think you have a lot to do. You have a lot to do in terms of getting this paper finished and getting it in good shape for grading. Um, at the end of the course is coming upon us really fast. It's only 3 weeks away, and so you want to make sure that you are not caught off guard by the arrival of the final week of class. Um, Try to begin next week. That is the following the week 13 module. Aim to begin that module with a complete revised draft in hand, so use this week to get there. Next week's module will include a peer review. It's our last peer review before the final week of the class when you're going to be turning the research paper in. So we are in the home stretch, and please remember that you can do it. The last thing that I just want to mention to you is that I am available to help you. I have included an opportunity in this week's module so that you can get feedback on a paragraph of your paper. For those of you who didn't submit a rough draft for my review, this is a really good opportunity to get some written feedback on a part of your paper. For those of you who did submit a rough draft for my review this past week, it is still a good opportunity to get some written feedback on a part of your paper. A number of you have called me or emailed me and have asked to come meet with me during my face-to-face office hours, and I am looking forward to those meetings and opportunities. If you are not able to do that, if you're not able to come meet with me face to face, I'm still happy to meet with you or try to arrange a time that we can talk online. I can't guarantee 100% we'll be able to do that because you have schedules and I have schedules. But I will do my best to arrange a time to talk with you about your work online or over the phone. So please don't feel like you have to do this on your own. I know this time of the semester can be really difficult and often people can feel overwhelmed, but I don't want you to feel as though you are without possibilities for help. So please reach out if you are needing assistance. All right, take care and have a great week.